Okay, English teacher friends. So I have an exciting gamified activity for us today. So a little something up my sleeve so that our students can master the fine art of punctuation, and I'll even throw in a little bit of grammar and syntax into this as well. So this one's called Strunk and White's Trivial Pursuit, and I'll walk you through it real quick so that you can bring it right into your classroom right away. So I have a lot of success with this one. My students actually asked to play it, which is amazing in this day and age where engagement and seems to be an issue, and intellectual apathy seems to be pervasive in our classroom, that students actually ask to learn how to punctuate via this system. So pretty cool. So I've used this 9 through 12. I do find that when I inherit my AP students in the fall, that oftentimes I do need to go back and freshen up a little bit with grammar, punctuation, syntax, and even at the college level. I teach at a local college and university here in upstate New York. My college students at the 100 level, 101 and 105, also need um, a little refresher or just a complete tutorial with regards to this. So this one's called Strunk and White Trivial Pursuit Mastering Punctuation. So many of you know my work and are familiar with how I teach voice, rhythm, flow, nuance, my word study academy, my nuance academy, etc. And I use this text a lot. It's called Write It Right with Strunk and White. It's celebrating the elements of style 1918 to 1979. You can get it for free as a PDF download at archive.org. And this archive.org is actually very fascinating for my music lover fans out there. It's a massive archive of live music. And it's got a ton of fantastic stuff on there. So, free books, free motion pictures, part of the Guggenheim Foundation. So, you can find this, this Strunk and White book right there, and put it in Google Classroom at your convenience. So, in terms of where I get a lot of my gamification material, teachers ask me this. They're like, "Man, you must make bank, Mr. Kuhn. Holy cow, you spend a lot of money on your kids." I don't. I'm like any other teacher. I don't mind spending a little bit of money here and there for my classroom. But big fan of the thrift shop, and my Trivial Pursuit boards that I use for this particular activity. 99 cents to $1.99 at Goodwill here in upstate New York. So I don't break bank at all whatsoever to bring these gamification processes to the classroom. So here's how this works. In Strunk and White, there are rules, and they basically have a rule for each like function of speech and like conceptual idea in the text. So again, those that are familiar with my work know that I've spent a lot of time building instruction around rule number 18 by Strunk and White, which is the idea that there's 12 different ways to construct a single sentence, right? So I've gamified that quite a bit. There's a number of activities in my YouTube channel with regards to building nuance, voice, rhythm, and flow. So rules 1 through 9 house the concepts for the semicolon, colon, comma, hyphen, dash, period, etc. And so here's what I do. Before we begin the game, I have a homework assignment, and students can either do this in the classroom or assign it as as a piece of homework. But I have my students study rules 1 through 9, and it's comprised of all of 5 pages. It's really not a big homework assignment. And I have them study all the rules for the proper use of a comma, and Strunk and White very concretely, succinctly, precisely delineate all the various implications of the comma and nicely articulate and clearly articulate its proper function and use. So one aspect of the homework assignment is this. Dear student, write 10 sentences properly using a comma. So just off the top of your head, just 10 sentences and properly use a comma. So my mom wrote me a grocery list and asked me to get the following things at Wegmans: hot dog buns, 2 liter of Coke, popcorn, butter, and frozen bag of frozen peas, right? So delineate map that out and put all the commas in. So 10 sentences for the comma, 10 sentences for the colon, 10 sentences for the semicolon, and 10 sentences for the hyphen dash, right? And by virtue of that, they'll learn the rule for the period as well. So 40 sentences. So prior to the Trivial Pursuit game, all students will have this done, right? And you'll be surprised. You really don't even need to go over these with your and be a red ink hawk and correct everything. Strunk and White do such a nice job explaining the rules and the functions that students tend not to make mistakes if they're following the rules that are spelled out in the textbook. So I just mark it down for compliance. I don't even look at them. So most of the time. So in terms of Trivial Pursuit and the rules, most of my gamification processes, you can create the rules depending on your grade level, how many kids you have in the class, their skill level, their skill gaps, etc. So I just keep a typical traditional Trivial Pursuit format where we have teams, usually have about 3 or 4 kids per team. Assign a color, assign a pie, and in terms of the questions, this is how we do it. So each color on the Trivial Pursuit board is designated by either comma, semicolon, colon, hyphen, dash, or one of my mentor sentences, right? And again, depending on the board that you have, you can designate the colors and the punctuation as you wish. So I use a real Trivial Pursuit board that we put on a center table in my classroom, and then I project it onto the overhead so that everybody can see it. So and I was told too that Teachers Pay Teachers, that somebody has a Trivial Pursuit PowerPoint board that's pretty cool that you can mend and render for the purposes of this. I got to check that out, and I guess it's only like $1.99, so I'll definitely check that out. So here's what happens. So I take a look at those sentences that students have created. In their groups, they look at each other's work and make sure that it's being done properly. So students can be teachers. I love it when I can make give my students my job. It makes my life easier. So in groups, they'll look at their homework assignment and they catch each other's errors. There's usually a couple of really good kids per group that can commandeer that effort and make sure that everything's copacetic and that nobody's absolutely lost and in left field, and they know their stuff. So let's say, for example, that student rolls the dice and they land on yellow, which is comma. So what we do is take a mentor sentence that is devoid of punctuation, devoid of syntax. And it's just a sentence that a student wrote for homework, or one that I wrote. So as students submit these, we remove all punctuation from them. All right. And the job is, as a team, while you're playing the Trivial Pursuit game, the team has to provide the proper punctuation. So since this is a comma question, we know that we're going to be inserting the commas. And again, for those that are familiar with my work, you know, with punctuation, I always tell my students to exercise the pause. That's why I have my little pause button down here to remind them. Students often, when they submit work or are editing or even reading, they don't acknowledge syntax. And I tell them, whenever you see, you know, a comma, a period, a hyphen, a dash, a semicolon, a colon, you have to pause. Your breath has to pause. So even though there's no syntactical, there's no syntax, there's no punctuation in this particular sentence here, um, as I read it, I say, listen for the pause. And where my voice naturally pauses, you know you have to do something. So just listen to this for a second. Mick Dodge, a man who has his own documentary show on National Geographic, eats bark from yew trees to cure his headaches. And you just ask the team, where are the pauses? And they'll pick it up after Dodge and after Geographic. All right, what are we putting there? You're going to put 2 commas, Mr. Kuhn. So we'll go in and doctor it up, put the comma there and put the comma there. And then here's the tricky part. You know, and you can gamify this however you want. So I get all sorts of tricker-rated with it and give extra points and extra pies for questions like this. If you know, let's say that the red team, this is the red team's question, and I say you're right. So you need a comma after Dodge and you need a comma after Geographic. But here's the $1,000,000 question. I'll give you some extra points for this. What's the name of this sentence construct? Ultimately, I want my students to know that this is a parenthetical statement, because during writing workshops later on, let's say that we have a student by the name of Jason who has submitted an essay. And we're looking at the introduction, for example. Like Jason wrote a declarative thesis, 4 sentences, and the first 3 sentences are short, simple declarative sentence. And it would be wonderful to say to Jason, hey, buddy, you know, you have 3 consecutive short, simple declarative sentences. Why don't you take sentences 2 and 3 and make it a parenthetical statement? You know, that's where I want to get with my kids, right? Ultimately, as the academic year progresses, talk with a certain degree of theory and technique at sentence level, like that. So all of these little gamification pieces and exercises go a long way and sequentially, incrementally build upon each other as you proceed throughout your course and your academic year. So here's another one, right? So remove the punctuation. It's a collaborative, competitive effort, just like my other gamification processes. And here's another one. At the end of the movie, there was still one question left unanswered. Who killed Davy Moore? And again, exercise the pause. At the end of the movie, boom, there was still one question left unanswered. Boom, who killed Davy Moore? And ultimately, we want kids to be able to say, you know, Mr. Kuhn, you're going to put a comma after, at the end of the movie, yep, comma, there was still one question left unanswered. Colon, who killed Davy Moore? And have a conversation. All right, you know, purple team, why are you putting a colon after unanswered? Well, class, well, Mr. Kuhn, we are using a colon there because we're interjecting a question in the middle of a sentence, and that's one function of a colon. Fantastic. What's the other function of a colon? And just start having these conversations. Kids will pick this up so quick when you gamify that you really will be spending far less time editing work and doing I call it editorial hen tracks, you know, when you're grading papers and just constantly fixing punctuation on students' papers. So here's one last one, and I get tricky and do more than punctuation, so you'll see with this one here. I don't know. I'm a trickster. I'm a prankster, and I want kids to be able to pick up on where things go amiss or awry or askew in these sentences. So there is a breed of hound dog. Its bark sounds a lot like a foghorn. Right, for them to pick up on the fact that that's the wrong there. So I give extra points for that. But again, exercise the pause. There's a breed of hound dog. Its bark sounds a lot like a foghorn. Also pick up on the fact that you don't need to contract the its. You're not saying it is, you're saying it's. So teach the grammar, the punctuation, the syntax, all of this stuff through this gamified process. And the pause comes after dog. So what are you going to do? Period, comma, semicolon, colon, hyphen, dash. So, there's only so many things you can do theoretically, technically there. And through the game, you can discuss all of those rules, edit on the spot, and really ensure that students are learning the basics of punctuation. So one thing that I do during writing workshops, if I'm grading student papers and students just are not getting punctuation, I go back to this all the time. Write me 10 sentences properly using a comma, colon, semicolon, hyphen. And then I'll look it over from the student, and then I'll just say, all right, your first body paragraph has a lot of issues in it. Let's go through that first body paragraph together and punctuate it for relatively near perfection. And they'll get it. They'll get it. They'll get it. They'll get it. So, all right. So that's Strunk and White Trivial Pursuit. I hope that you found that to be useful and can use it with your students. As many of you know, I'm getting at the point where I'm going to be running my summer short course series. So on June 28th at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we are going to do the Word Study Academy. And I got quite literally 52 different ways to show you how to teach vocabulary. So straight up dry pedantic ways of doing it and gamified ways of doing it. But above and beyond that, it's just not teaching vocabulary, it's teaching voice. So the two need to be partnered together. Voice and vocab absolutely are inextricably linked. So we're going to be doing that on the 28th, and on the 11th of July, we're going to be getting into the Nuance Academy, and I have AP Strategies for Success, a 2-hour alternative grading method intensive, and an introduction to my Plato's Plato discussion. So all of those are going to be offered in like 60 or 90-minute intensives over the summer months. So you can get more information at teachinghowtowrite.com. The address is right there for you. You can email me at teachingwritingcoach@gmail.com. So we're also going to be offering the Teach It Right 5-week mastermind. I have a few projects going on this summer with the National Writing Project and NCTE as well. So if you want more information on that, visit my website, and you can stay abreast of my comings and goings. So for now, be well, happy teaching, and happy writing.